Luke Rockhold is making his return to 185 pounds and apparently was trying to line up a fight with Khamzat Chimaev for August 28th. Rockhold said that he accepted the bout, but got word that Chimaev declined, saying that Chimaev was going to stay at 170, so he didn't want a 185 fight. He also accepted a 3-rounder against Chimaev on August 7th, apparently, which Chimaev, again, declined. So Rockhold's quote from all of this was, "All respect, but I thought he would fight anyone," which is true. I mean, we are part of the Chimaev News Network here. Been a minute since we've talked about our boy, and we used to talk about how he could fight at 185, 170. He's going to fight everybody. He's going to be champ, all this stuff. And now he's ducking Luke Rockhold, apparently. And what is your reaction to this? Is Luke telling the truth here? Is Chimaev backing down from a fight?
I'm sure Luke is telling the truth here to some extent. I mean, the thing is, we hear about fighters all the time saying, "Well, I signed the contract and the other guy wouldn't." We don't know what the UFC is telling them. We don't know what their management is telling them. So God knows there could be all sorts of stories that are incorrect that float around to fighters and they relate to the media. And here we are like dummies saying this is what happened. So I think that happens a lot more frequently than what we might realize. But also too, in this case, I'm not too startled by this. Keep in mind, it was just a few months ago that Chimaev was posting Instagram stories coughing up blood, and there were reports that he was near death and still trying to train through COVID. Maybe he lost a lot of weight. Like maybe he doesn't have the same muscle mass. Maybe he has a smaller frame now, and 185 just doesn't make sense for him right now. It makes perfect sense to decline a fight in a weight class that you don't want to fight in. So I really don't see why people are up in arms about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is kind of because of the narrative, and I mean, not so much the narrative. That's just how he started, right? He fought at 170 real quick, and he fought at 185 real quick. So, for him to turn down a fight, which really that's a great return fight for him in terms of name, and maybe not as much risk as you would have got with Luke a couple years ago. So in that regard, it's a little bit frustrating as a Chimaev fan, I'm sure, but at the same time, fantastic points. So I like a lot and agree and disagree kind of with both of them in certain ways, because I think it would be great to see this. I think it would be an awesome, fantastic matchup. Pat and I were talking about when Luke said he was going to come back, who we'd like to see him against. And I was really excited for the thought of maybe a Hermansson fight, just because I want to see him against a grappler, because Luke on the ground, incredibly underappreciated. I will say that until the cows come home. And somebody like Chimaev, that'd be a fantastic test for him, who he's been very dominant on the ground. And, we've seen he's got good knockout power now at 185, mind you, against that chin. It's really compelling. I love this matchup. I really wish we would get to see it. But then again, at the same time, with what Ant said, take that into consideration. But then having Chimaev to stick to one division, I think is a good thing. And if it'll be 170, that's fine. That's a great division. Plenty of awesome matchups there. Even though I think we agreed way back when Chimaev was coming on the scene that 185 needs him more. So there's so many different ways to look at this, I think. But is it surprising that it's happening, or that Chimaev is maybe declining this? Yes and no, for multiple reasons, but I really want to see it now. I never thought about this matchup at all, so I'm really bummed, actually.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a fantastic matchup. I think would be great for both guys, because Rockhold, again, has kind of struggled with relevance a little bit as of late, and this would be a great way to welcome him back to 185, as well as a good test for Chimaev, who is going to fight Leon Edwards, right, at 170. So I think there's two parts to this. I believe the first is the one I just touched on there, where, Chimaev did get offered the number 3 welterweight in the company. And it's very possible that he's hoping to get, 1 through 5 in the welterweight division, especially since that fell out. And he wants to, do that leapfrog so he can go for the title at 170 easier. I think the other possibility here that Ant touched on is his health, where he went through COVID. We know there were a lot of issues, especially with cardio, right? He talked about him struggling with cardio issues. So if he's bulking up or, just heavier in general, his cardio is going to be affected there. Maybe he wants to stay at 170 while he's still recovering, especially his first fight back, because he's more likely to, if he's not cutting a bunch of weight, he's more likely to be a little bit faster and have a little bit of cardio there. If he's bulking up to get to 185, I mean, that's going to drain your cardio as is, but especially after COVID, he doesn't want to go in there and then gas out in round one and end up losing to Rockhold and, taking the mystique away. So I think those are two very real possibilities on why Chimaev is saying this, if it's even what's happening. Because Ant did point out that we see this all the time where, somebody, so-and-so is turning down a fight. Dana will say, yeah, they turned down the fight. Fighter will be like, I never got the contract. What are you talking about? And who knows who you're supposed to believe, because it could be possible that any one of them is lying or messing around. So I like this matchup a lot. I wish it would happen, but I understand from Chimaev's point of view, if he is turning it down, why he would. Now, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, the funny thing, though, about it all, I think just this entire Chimaev saga is now at this point, I feel like he's in a very lose-lose situation. So not that he can call a shot necessarily, but you look at the expectation is still there very clearly, whether it's from him or from the public in the community, the fans who were like you said, Pat, he had a number 3 contender fight, booked right there, which we know he didn't deserve. If we're going to be completely honest, the guy, that's the
hey, this is Chimaev News Network. He deserves a title shot. You're right.
Yes,
You're right.
That's what I meant. But the rocket strap to the back of all rocket straps, right? So with somebody like Luke, who former champion, still a very notable guy, it's like to potentially turn that down. That's still, a step above probably than what you should be at right now. And if he loses to, let's say, a Luke, or especially a Leon, but like Luke, it's still not the end of the world. Like, the guy's still very early in his career, a lot to prove still. It wouldn't tell us that he's, was a sham or anything like that. Like, his push wasn't deserved. I mean, maybe that would be the case, but he could still go on to be a champion one day. It doesn't tell us too much in that regard, I think, if he was to lose to one of these guys. And then if he goes and, takes on somebody lower ranked where he should be, obviously the loss hurts a lot more. But if he wins, then we're kind of in the same boat. I just feel like he's in a really good spot because of how things played out. And so it's just all interesting, I think, to look at these angles.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see that matchup as well. It sounds interesting and stylistically really could provide some fireworks. But this might be the time to dial it back for Chimaev, and at least for one fight, take the more common approach to building up a fighter. Put him in there with someone who isn't of the same stature as a Luke Rockhold or Leon Edwards, and let's just make sure the guy is still the same guy. Because the Chimaev that we saw smoke Mershat last year, yeah, that sounds great against Rockhold, but we don't know what product we're going to get now. So let's see what product we're going to get first, and then we'll start throwing these big names in the mix. I think that makes a lot of sense. As far as Rockhold is concerned, man, it sure would be nice if Anderson Silva was still on the roster, huh? That's the fight that got away. That's what I really wanted to see, was those two fight. That's something that I've wanted to see since Rockhold in his Strikeforce days. What about, Chris Weidman's timetable to return? I know he suffered a devastating injury recently, but if Rockhold is willing to wait a little bit longer to see if Weidman can make a comeback, hey, put that rematch together. It's a rematch that we were deprived of years ago at UFC 199. I think Kelvin Gastelum also makes a lot of sense for Rockhold as well. So there are other options for him. For Chimaev, though, let's pump the brakes. Let's make sure he's still the same guy before we get too excited again.
Yeah, and normally I would say, from a business perspective, right, forget everything you just said, because Chimaev is pumping up those numbers. It's a huge thing. You got to strike while the iron's hot. But at this point, Chimaev has been on the sidelines for so long that I'm not sure what his numbers and what that, heat that he had when he came onto the scene is looking like. number wise. So this is a perfect time to go ahead and kind of pump the brakes with him, see what his drawing power is, have him come back for just a fight against where he should realistically be fighting rankings wise. And then not only do you get to check to see, what the appetite of the fan base is, but you get to check and make sure that he's good health wise to continue to compete at 170. And Luke Rockhold has a million different options that Ant just listed off that he could fight at 185. So this is a great business call. This is an opportunity here to do just that. So I'm with you in that regard. I think that makes the most sense. Let us know in the comments how you feel about this matchup falling through. Are you upset that this isn't happening? Did you want to see Rockhold versus Chimaev? Do you think that they're maybe rushing Chimaev too much, especially with all of his health issues? Do you think that Rockhold, really is who Chimaev should be fighting, given, Rockhold is coming back to 185 after taking some time off and having his last loss against the 205 champion? Let us know all your thoughts and, everything we've covered here. Just give us all the thoughts, all of them, every single thought and feeling you got. Yes, give them to us. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification. And yeah, with that in mind, maybe one day we will see Chimaev fight Anderson Silva in a boxing match, which is what I think the three of us really want,